Session is how I went through containerizing something from scratch, something that already existed, and what this taught me and what the path taught me about containerization. And moreover, what the path taught me about learning as well. And it gets a little bit philosophical. The technical details of the talk is going to be a pretty basic level. So if you haven't played with containers, you'll be able to understand. If you have, follow along, maybe stand up your own server, play along as well. So my name is Julia Ferrioli. I know some of you I haven't seen for years, some of you I saw last night. And it's great to be at OSCON. This is my first time speaking here. Really excited. I work in the open source programs office. I put the empathy up there because this journey through the Minecraft containerization actually required a great deal of empathy, which I'll get into a little bit. You'll hear some name dropping. It'll be cool. But most recently, I've been working on machine learning. This picture is actually an example of style transfer from Van Gogh to this picture that I took a while back. So I had the opportunity maybe like a year ago to spend a lot of time recovering from surgeries. And I played Minecraft a lot because it gave me a way to explore the world that wasn't possible for me at the time. So I really like, and I hold a great deal of affection to this game. I mean, besides, the world is only so big. Mars is much bigger. So it worked out well. So I'm kind of addicted, and I play this pretty much every week. I've expanded beyond vanilla Minecraft into a mod pack called Resonant Rise, which I highly recommend. But when LEGO released their Minecraft series, I also got addicted to that. So every illustration in this deck will be either Lego that somebody else has made or Lego that I made myself to procrastinate. Like this one. Before I joined the open source team, I was working on Google Cloud Platform, so I also really like cloud. Although that did look more like a dirigible than a cloud, I'll admit. And because I was working on cloud, I also really like containers. And somehow I managed to get a proposal accepted that let me talk about all of this, which is kind of cool if you think about it. So let's get on with it. So let's talk about containers. Who here uses containers in their job or for fun? Okay, many of you. How many of you have been using them for more than a year? 2? Who would consider themselves an expert? Cool. We're all friends here. So in my last job, I had the chance to talk to a lot of developers at a variety of different levels and of different fields. And I got people who were really gung-ho about containers. And the ones that weren't had a variety of reasons, whether their company didn't let them spend time exploring new technology, or they maybe evaluated it, got stuck, and didn't see a path forward for them. And it's interesting. If we look at some stats, approximately anywhere from 14 to 36% of folks are running containers in production. This was an article written about 3 months ago by the folks at the New Stack. So depending on your evaluation. So there are a good deal of folks either still evaluating or have already decided to move on. And why is that? Anybody have an idea? There's no right answer here, so we'll go through at least a little bit. So is there a barrier here to adoption? I think like with any new technology, we're still gaining we're still progressing down the adoption curve until we see containers more universally in use. But we have lots of tutorials, we have intros, we have workshops. Who here has gone to one of the container workshops? Pretty cool. You get a nice path through the world of containerization, and you feel like you've got a pretty good grasp on things. Most of the major cloud providers support running containers pretty seamlessly. It's in everyone's best interest. And every city seems to have one or more meetups to go to. In Seattle, where I'm from, we have at least 3 that I can think of offhand. Seattle's a big place, so we don't want to have to travel far to get to them. So there's clearly something else kind of missing here. If we consider the world of containerization our awesome town, how do we get from here to there? And so if you think about taking a vacation and you say, hey, folks at work, I'm going to go take a visit to awesome town. I'll be back in a week. My work isn't urgent, so just keep it for me. They'll probably say, okay, yeah, that's fine. But if they say, oh, awesome town sounds really fun, let's all move there, you start to realize that maybe you're missing some of the infrastructure to get from here to there. The roads aren't rated for a trailer load of stuff. You could kind of think of that as moving all of your existing application structure to containers. So what I thought about, I wanted to try and put myself in the shoes of the developer looking to bring their company to this world of awesome town. And I realized that we needed a bit of a toy problem. We needed something that was fully baked, that they could play with, that anyone could play with, that was around before the surge of container popularity. Right? This needed to be something that people could really identify with. That people understood pretty well. Even those of you who have never played Minecraft, do you know roughly what it is?
I have kids.
Okay. I don't have that excuse. I don't have kids, but yes, Minecraft is a great game for kids. It's in fact used a lot in education already. But it needs to be somewhat complex so that it's not too simple of a toy, but simple enough that we can kind of dissect it, figure out what's going on, and approach it. And when I started thinking about it, maybe because I was playing a lot of Minecraft at the time, well, doesn't Minecraft fit all of those criteria? Plus, you get to play with a game. It's not such a battle life, to be honest. So let's go through the phases that a person new to containers might take. The first one is experimentation. So we're doing our Hello World version of Minecraft here. What does Minecraft need to run? Java. Yes. All of the Java. And that's pretty much it, right? Like, we can be pedantic here and say you also need a computer to run the Java to run them, but you know. So we'll run we'll write a basic Docker file. Is that roughly parsable in the back? Okay. There are better ways to structure this Docker file. We're going to run on Debian. We go get our requisite Java. We decide what Minecraft to run, and we fetch it, and then execute it. These are roughly the same steps you would do to run Minecraft without a container, right? Pretty much. So if we're to put ourselves in the shoes of somebody new, doesn't really seem like a whole lot of difference here. We're not really sure what the magic is. Because I could very easily do this myself without messing with containers. But because we're patient, because we really like to think about this stuff and say, okay, if it's all that popular, there must be the reason, and I'm missing something right now. So we proceed to phase 2, which is cautious containerization. Be like, okay, we're going to stick with it. So we go ahead and we build our container, our image. And I'm not going to run through this part live, just because I have a better demo at the end that I would love to spend my context switching energy for. So we'll get to something like that. And there's nothing too complex here. We go ahead and run it. We'll map the port, the default Minecraft port, to the one on our host. And then we go ahead and see, okay, well, I know what's next. We get our results, and we check on it. Because everybody knows how to check on your running containers. And you get a response, something like this. Wait, what? Nothing happened. And you say, okay, well, because computers do what we tell them to do, and nothing else, clearly I did something wrong. Which moves us to phase 3, problem identification. We built our image, we ran the container, but nothing happened. So we try to puzzle through what's going on. And we find out, we look at the documentation for our Docker run command, and we find out something very interesting. That -d flag that we shamelessly stole from some documentation somewhere means detached. And that means that when Java exited, our container exited, which means that that must have exited. Now, we could puzzle through this and go look at some logs and all that good stuff, but we're impatient. I'm a very impatient engineer. So I'm just going to remove the flag. That seems like an easy solution. Time is infinite, right? OK. So we take the flag away, and we try this again. And we get some friendly output. Does this look familiar to anyone? This is the step that anybody running Minecraft anywhere runs into, nods their head, and instantly forgets about. Instantly. I can't tell you how many times I've created a new server and forgotten about this. And what is happening is it's creating the world on first startup, and it goes and it checks for the end user license agreement, and if you've accepted it. And if you haven't, then it just says, oh, go do that. So what it does is it actually generates the eula.txt file that you then go and edit. So I remember back when I first started exploring containers, which was a couple of years ago, this was the absolute first question that I ever got, was how do you accept these in containers? And I have no idea what I said. Absolutely none. Hopefully it made sense, but I can't promise. But it turns out that this is also a pretty common question. And this is where we get into that whole learning process thing. Because if we never encounter this particular problem, if we never fail, then we never get to learn something new. So what we're going to do instead is create a script file that does some checking for us. And we say, okay, if we've already accepted the EULA, then start the server. Or we can use an environment variable and tell the environment variable that we've accepted it. And if that's the case, then start the server. But if not, just go tell people what to do. And that lets us learn how to do a couple of things. So we've got Java and an accepted EULA. So we revise our Docker file. And the revisions are shown in bold. So this problem that we run into that's maybe frustrating at the start gives us the opportunity to learn a couple of things. We learn how to copy local files into our container, which we didn't before. We learn how to use environment variables, which we didn't know before either. So we've modified it a little bit, and then we go ahead and we start the server. And it gives us a pretty nice little Minecraft server that we can run and enjoy for the duration of the container. So there are a couple lessons that we can take away from this that aren't so much about the internals of containerization as it is about what we expect to be true. And the first one is that storage kind of becomes complicated. Because when that container goes away, our world goes away. So all of that progress we've made, building up our defenses against the creepers and maybe setting some traps over some lava. This is usually how I die in Minecraft. All of that nice progress disappears because all of the storage in your container goes away if you don't explore something like mapping your volumes or using a data-only container. And these are things that there's good documentation about, and they're open source projects as well. But this is actually completely misleading because it's not that storage becomes complicated. It already was complicated. We're just shifting where the complexity is. Because we all know that you don't want to run your database in your front end, right? Does anybody do that? Keep my hands behind my back. So it's just taking concepts that we already know and shifting around the vocabulary. But why is that difficult? It's because fundamentally, we as humans have a hard time with ephemerality. And we've all been doing this for at least the duration of the conference. So we have some experience here that this should not be uncomfortable for us. I'm gonna say a name, and if you recognize the name, raise your hand. Piaget. Okay. So Piaget, I meant to check to see what my time was on that, did some research in child psychology. And if you've ever heard of the ball experiment, where about a two-year-old, so tiny human, they give the 2-year-old a ball. And then they roll the ball out of sight. Now, that 2-year-old doesn't say or express disbelief or, oh my goodness, the ball is all of a sudden gone. It's disappeared from reality altogether. No, that 2-year-old knows that the ball is behind the door, under the blanket, or wherever the ball rolled. Even though it's out of sight, it still exists. When we use some of the technology that we do, we have to be very comfortable with accepting ephemerality. So it's an interesting kind of musing that I got into probably at 3 a.m. sometime, and wanted to communicate to you. So, but now we're a little bit comfortable. We've moved on from our struggles and identity crisis with ephemerality. And now we've moved on to stage 4, which is containerizing all the things. We understand the value of containers, and we want to do everything now with containers. We've moved into the fan phase. And we realize that now we don't need to have to mess around with one container. We can mess around with a lot of them, right? It doesn't actually matter how many we have. We can manage them. We can do it with orchestration tools. So I'm going to switch to a bit of a demo that I rewrote last night. And is that, I think that's roughly clear. And what we're going to do is use some really, really basic Kubernetes commands. How many of you went to the Kubernetes workshop? A couple. So this will be far more simple than what y'all did. So Kubernetes is an open source orchestration framework. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute one command, kube control run, and we're going to give it a name, MC. That's a little small. Is that a little bit better?
You can go more.
More? How's that? Huh? Good, okay. Okay, and then we're just going to give it the image that we've built, that I have stored in the cloud that I love so much. And then we're going to pass it that env environment variable. It feels like my typing is extremely loud, so I apologize. And then we're going to give it a port. So this isn't all that dissimilar from our Docker run command. And I'm going to make sure that it works. Give it the default port number. And Kubernetes is going to go up to a cluster that I have created and deploy my container on the cluster. So if we then go and get our pods, we have a Minecraft pod. So we can go to our client and then find the world that we just created. And I will admit, we haven't done any of the persistent storage modifications to make this world last. So we're just gonna play around like there's no tomorrow.
Punch a tree.
Punch a tree? What do you take me for, a tree puncher?
Yes.
Oh, right. I am a tree puncher. We will punch a tree. And it's very dark, and it's probably, I'm used to all of my mods, so we will go place this down and stand on top of our conquered punched tree. So this is very important right now, so pay close attention to this part. So we're going to disconnect from our world. It's still there. And we're going to say, well, okay, now we have that one container, but let's make it count. And we're going to increase the number of worlds that we have by using the kube control scale command. And what this is going to do is fail because I didn't tell it what deployment I wanted to target. So if you remember, this run command took a name, and that MC is the name of our deployment, as it so helpfully tells us in the response. So what we'll do is tell it which deployment to target. So what it's doing right now is it's figuring out the delta between how many deployed MCs we have and how many we want. So if we go to kube control get pod or get deployment, we can see that now we wanted 4, now we have 4 because I took too long to talk. And they're available. But I'm kind of skeptical because Minecraft, when it starts, does not start that rapidly. So we can see that it's only been up for 35 seconds, which gives me a second to look at one other portion, our service, which is acting as a load balancer. So we've got a load balancer operating on this IP and distributing throughout each of these pods. So when we go back to our client and we refresh, and this is random, so it could very easily drop us into the world we've already been on, but it didn't. This is a completely different world on a completely different server. And now, because Minecraft wasn't hard enough, you no longer can be assured of what environment you are going to wind up in. So what I'm going to do is quit Minecraft because this would be the second talk in a row that I would manage to get myself killed on stage. So let's not do that. So now we have this great fleet of Minecraft worlds that we can tap whenever we want. And assuming we do the work to persist the storage, this could be a great fun exercise as like a geeky birthday party or what have you. But we're at this phase 5 where the value proposition of containers has really shown itself to us. We understand, and it's a little bit freeing. We're no longer constrained. We can think beyond the boundaries that we've been operating in for so long. You get to the point that the dopamine has gone through the roof, as I'm sure it does with everyone who starts to love a new technology. And because the dopamine has gone through the roof, we move to the next stage, which is absurdity. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the demo and run a local container. So this is one I've started and stopped. Does anyone remember DockerCon in Barcelona? When at the close of the conference, they showed a great way to manage your containers. And if we refresh our page, we can take a look at it. So this is so that you never have to leave Minecraft again. We can see our container names here. And I need to give credit where credit is due. An engineer from Pittsburgh, and I'm blanking on his correct name right now, so I will link to it in the resources slides, extended Dockercraft to Kubernetes clusters, which is what this is. So these are each of our Minecraft worlds that we can look at. We can go in, we can start and stop them. Once the container's stopped, we can remove them. And let me go as close to the edge as I can without dropping off. And see, I want to try something. I didn't try this in my rehearsal, so if it fails, I trust that you will not completely get up and leave right now. So let's increase the number of replicas. And now we see this orange one over here. And it's orange because it hasn't actually finished starting yet. So once it does, it'll turn blue, and then we can just stay in our Minecraft world forever and ever.
When my boss walks in and sees me playing Minecraft, I can tell him it's research.
So the question was, when his boss sees him playing Minecraft, it's research? Yes. I had a really great couple of weeks where people saw me playing Minecraft at work, and I'm like, I swear, this is for work. I promise. But as silly as some of my work containerizing Minecraft may seem, these are the learning paths that people can go down when they're learning a new technology. And the critical thing that I learned is that we cannot take away points of failure, much like in technology. We need to learn from failure. We need to accept it and plan for it. And taking away a person's opportunity to fail in the learning experience deprives them of another valuable opportunity. So with that, here's some cool resources from everything from the educational resources from Minecraft to that paper by Piaget, as well as KubeCraft. So I think that I have a few minutes for questions.
You gonna put this on your blog?
The question was, am I going to put this on my blog? So I did write a four-piece series, and I will or have published. Can I go away from the resources slide? Okay. I have published the deck online.
Is it on your blog site, or is it?
This is on Speaker Deck.
Speaker Deck?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I know that face.
So I've done Minecraft before running
Yeah.
containers, just not Docker containers.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to SSH. Oh, because we're recording? Okay. So you actually have to SSH into it, right, to get the tunneling connection. How are you getting around? What fancy magic are you using here where you're actually connecting to your containers from the client without using SSH or RSH or something else?
So how am I getting into the Minecraft world on the client?
So usually, is this all running on your local machine?
It is. It is not. It is. So that's a great question. The reason I rewrote the demo last night was because I was trying to do this all on my local machine. My local machine, despite almost not being able to see over it, is just this 11-inch MacBook Air, and it really didn't like running 4 simultaneous containers of Minecraft worlds. So I moved it to a Google Container Engine cluster that runs containers for me.
Right. So then how are you getting your Minecraft client to talk to the server?
Right. So if I go and I look at my service, so this is acting as a load balancer on these ports, and this is the IP that I connect to.
Okay.
Yeah.
If anybody can connect to this right now if they knew that IP address.
No, they could not. But yes, when I was doing it on my local machine, I did have to set up that tunnel. I just got into the Docker I'm going to try out Docker for Mac. I'm really excited to try that.
Did you solve the storage problem to make the world persistent?
So the question is, did I solve the storage problem to make the world persistent? I did one approach in the second of my blog series on this. It was a while ago, so I'm not actually sure if it still works. I basically just mapped a drive on my host to a drive in the container. So it was the path of least resistance at the time.
One of the things you could do
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you could do is expose the directory where they stored the
Yes.
where they store
The world.
at the world. Do that and then create a data container that just pulls that in.
Yeah, that's definitely an approach I explored. I was mostly going for the educational value, and that was a little bit too complicated to put in the blog. So, yeah, the blogs are very long. I didn't want to make them longer. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all for coming.